I mean, it does. I mean, Bobby was tired. He was always tired.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I got all this stuff to do.
And then you go on Friday, right?
Yeah, so tomorrow night we get the water bill.
So Lauderdale and then what's
We've never been in Fort Canton.
So what are you doing Saturday?
We'll be in Fort Canton and then we'll drive back. And then he's scheduled to be in DC at the White House.
there's a side.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Oh, nothing private.
A week and a half. Actually, he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back for a day or two because there's actually it's in this room, the link, the Interscope American Day dinner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so we'll be, he's coming back.
Yep.
We probably didn't even have time to count them today, but anyway, we got another stack hanging over. Over 2,300, over 2,300 yesterday, so we'll be. Hey, how are you? Just cakes. So anyway, we'll be in the 2,400. Tomorrow. Yep, I got an appointment coming. So you got to do an appointment, because they have a team of 4 or 5 people that start, they go along. One of the things that they do is to separate them by notaries, because that's what I would. And I go. These guys are kind of nice.
People are asking that, I don't know.
May I? Peter. Peter.
Hey, you guys want these three here?
They're gonna, she's gonna find out. Ask the boss. This will be fun.
Oh, sure. That's why I came. Me too. I didn't touch it.
What is there?
I mean, sometimes I wonder, Bobby Charles, why would you say this? I gets in front of that camera, right? He's pretty good. He gets in front of the camera. Yeah. Anyhow, I have to explain what's going on.
Oh, Sophia. God, where are you from? I'm from. Sorry? Say where?
It's so small. But I guess the most important thing is that.
Yeah, I mean, they're televised.
Yeah. Not one thing.
Same here, I, my son was
No, they told me they right?
well, he's in the legislature.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm from the county, originally. Originally, so I know Troy Jackson, the whole story, the family. This is very interesting. When I was a kid, it was all different. Now it's all black. And now there's like Detroit. So that's pretty interesting.
Do you support Troy?
I haven't made up my mind.
So I went up there real well a year ago. In November. We loved it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I make him every other one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Try that.
That's one of the main things.
Chicken, we're gonna make a soup on water. And yes, lemon.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I had to ask that woman. I had to ask her to throw it up in the bathroom.
I've been there too.
Oh, it's awful. I think you put that right here.
Oh yeah.
Right here.
Good job.
You don't want to be too close.
Right. In case he starts, fish start flying.
This is really interesting. Read the back of Charles. The guy is very yeah. Oh, you know, circle, Reagan. Definitely some stuff like that. And if you look at Troy, a bullshit. Bernie
That's right. He's supported Bernie.
yeah.
And Bernie's supported him.
Bernie supported him.
Where do you get your news?
I know. I like him as in stuck up in the chamber. And then I like to go online and just cross check MSN.
Yeah. Try this. Oval back.
Really?
Oval back.
Can we sit here, sir?
Do you work for these guys?
Yeah.
What's that sad to say on that post?
Not really. 6:30 doesn't say. I hope it's not legislative time.
I did that back
Until midnight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's an art. Well, it's art. I'll bet. I'll bet. You get pretty rowdy, do you? Should we be ready? I mean,
I used to get rowdy, I can't anymore.
what if you could?
Whenever the stroke is extreme.
Okay, no, we don't need that.
Sorry, what was that? Yeah.
What's that?
Okay, I'm sorry, you're in together. Okay. Gotcha. Nice to see you.
We built them for about 10 years. We built oil yeah, but that was many.
Hopefully it'll get me through to like 8 o'clock. Really trying to launch it.
Oh, you'll be able to tell.
He's a lot
Yeah, yeah.
What are we doing? American Legion. And I was sitting on
How you doing?
Hello, hello. Hello. Yes.
Good to see you. How you doing? I would say, you look like a little bit. Seem like they're good guy. This guy, how you doing, brother? He's Auburn.
Hey, Jim.
Sorry, guys, got a tap dance around this. Sorry.
Which one? Like, I can make it done. Those guys have patience.
I wish I had it. It was almost
I'm from Richmond. Where are you from? All right. What's that? Richmond, yeah, you are from Richmond. You are, listen to you all the Oh, yeah.
How's it going now?
Thank you very much. Health is great. Things are going really well.
I'll stay away from it today. Yeah. 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 No. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm so over it. That's why I'm so Oh yeah. His Syria reviews and dresses all those dummies are crazy. That was freaking awesome. Right? Yeah.
Don't complain. Well, we have a problem. Complain how thin because the accident.
Yeah. For self-employed, we used to own a car dealership, but we have self-storage, we have rental property, everything. Yeah. All right, let's enjoy this night.
Or she just got lost.
So,
These chairs are all full? No, they're not. None of them. Those are full, these ones open? Well, here's the next one. Rowdy type. I'm a rowdy type.
Tell her I get along.
Right. It's basically cut off. You want to be able to reach it now.
So the frame is like this.
I always say, do you need a seat or are you going to sit up there? Is your front row seat there or do you want to sit here?
Reagan, are you going or no? Right, I'll wait then.
Yeah, right there. Oh yeah, you're fine.
Seven. Give me a second.
I think after June,
Hey, I'm Robin. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Oh, absolutely, you too.
Right track, 1, 2. Is that it? There we go. I don't want to do these. Yeah, right up before.
I'm just putting 7.
My name is Peter. Severin Bellahone Peter. How do you do?
Jim Boyle.
Thanks for that. Steve was here. Where you from? I'm from Monmouth. You were yes.
No, you're good. Thank you.
How about yourself? Okay. Okay. Originally from Brunswick. Oh yeah.
What's down? They might have been joints.
Which way?
Are you a dignitary down in Portland?
No. That's all. It's a dignitary.
What are you doing?
Semi-retired. Yeah. Out of the legislature.
Yeah. Where do you live?
Gorham.
Gorham, by trip.
I live in really Richardson's old retirement house. Yeah.
No shit.
That's a name you've heard a while, huh?
When I was really involved back in those days, thinking back to 2007, he and I concurred along with Jim Pryor of the state senate. We cut the deal in Curtis. That's how it got the but Harry Richard had all Republicans.
Yeah. Huh.
then after his girlfriend became Harold Bishop.
Jesus. Small world.
Next question, Vanessa.
That's it, though. retired. He's retired. Yeah.
Oh, aren't you cute? A comedian. I worked 38 years at Beth Arnold's. Been out of there 13 years. Got some fingers. Most of my hearing.
Well, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
Good.
I knew when to die. The first time I saw big crickets when they fire coming down off. I thought, what a dangerous word. What am I doing here?
But served you well, didn't it?
They did. I so saved a little money, raised a family, got a pension.
Oh, good. Look at that. Those pensions are rarity these days, huh?
Yes, you bet.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andy O'Brien. I'm the Communications Director for the Maine AFL-CIO. Welcome to tonight's gubernatorial primary debate. Tonight we're joined by Democrat Troy Jackson and Republican Bobby Charles, each seeking their party's nomination for governor. Carol Connolly and I have developed all of the questions for this debate without any prior knowledge or input from the campaigns, ensuring a fair and independent process. It's also important to note that the moderators will not be fact-checking. That responsibility rests with the candidates themselves. We will be strictly enforcing time limits and agreed-upon format. Here's how the evening will proceed. Each candidate will begin with a 4-minute opening statement with the order determined by a coin toss, which we just did, and that was felt to Bobby Charles. We'll then move into a series of questions, alternating which candidate receives the initial prompt. You'll hear 2-minute answers, followed by 2-minute responses, and then 1-minute rebuttals from each candidate. In total, the debate will include 8 questions with alternating A-B-A-B and B-A-B-A response sequences to ensure balance. We will conclude with 2-minute closing statements with the order reversed from the opening. Candidates are permitted to use scratch paper and a pen, but may not use prepared notes or written materials. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and now I'll turn it over to my co-moderator, Carol Connolly.
Thank you, Andy. I'm Carol Conley, retired Executive Director of the Christian Civic League of Maine, and certainly honored to be here tonight. Our goal is to provide a civil, substantive, and informative forum for voters. Because the questions were crafted independently and without campaign influence, we believe tonight's discussion will give you clear insight into each candidate's priorities and decision-making. We will ensure that each candidate receives equal opportunity to speak, and we ask the candidates to respect the time limits and structure agreed upon for this event. Tonight's questions will cover a range of issues, including law enforcement, crime, drugs, immigration, ICE enforcement, and government corruption. Thank you again for being a part of this important conversation, and we'll begin with the opening statements. And since Bobby won the coin toss, he will go first.
So thank you, Andy, and thank you, Carol, and thank you, Troy. Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. We are here because Maine is frankly in a state of peril, and the numbers cannot be denied. We have had 10,000 overdoses in this state last year. We had, in the last 7 years, 5,000 young people die of fentanyl overdoses. We have 8,000 illegal aliens in this state who are enjoying free housing. We have property taxes that have doubled. We have energy costs that have doubled or tripled. We have schools that are at the bottom, and we have 200,000 Mainers on welfare. Here's the bottom line. No other state with that demographic has those kinds of numbers. The bottom line is, my esteemed colleague here, Troy Jackson, was in charge. He actually has been here for 22 years in government. And he is the guy that was acting, in effect, as lieutenant governor. That's what a head of the Senate effectively is in our state, for Janet Mills. At the end of the day, we have to fix this, well, we are going to be in very deep trouble. We're already in deep trouble. Let me tell you a little about myself. I grew up in a little town of 500 people, Wayne. I was raised by my school teacher mother. She taught us hard work, and so I started working at the age of 12 full-time. I was an NRA State Hunter at about 12. I was an Eagle Scout at 13. I was building houses at the age of 17. And because people gave me opportunities in life, I worked my way through Dartmouth College, Oxford University for an economics degree, and then Columbia Law School. I went away to serve my country. I served 10 years as a Naval Intelligence Officer, finishing as a Lieutenant Commander. Eventually, I was tapped to be the Assistant Secretary of State. I managed billions of dollars, thousands of people, and I'm proud to say I fired hundreds of bureaucrats. I will also tell you that I managed for the last 25 years a national security company doing a combination of classified and unclassified work for law enforcement, and so I have deep respect for law enforcement and the national security community. I bring you back for a moment here to what's happening in the state of Maine and how critical this moment is. It is not just that we have had policy failures for year upon year under Janet Mills and Troy Jackson. It is the fact that they have actually normalized public corruption. And you may say to me, well, Bobby, well, that's a pretty hard charge. What do you mean by that? Well, let me tell you what I mean by that. I mean 6,500 non-compete sole source contracts going to friends and family and to their affiliates, any one of which, and I was also a federal investigator for 5 years, any one of which would have been a felony criminal referral if it were at the federal level. But has anything happened here? No, not at all. And in fact, these went to groups like Gateway, part of the Somali community, and their leadership. In fact, there were 13 contracts bundled with that particular one. Credit to the Mainwire for their FOIA requests. What else has happened in the state that normalized corruption? Well, let's walk through a few of the most notable ones. We just got an IG audit that said that we have $46 million in fraud at DHHS in autism. We have the Lewiston Fund, the fund for the victims, where $2 million was diverted away in order, again, to go to Somali groups. In fact, the steering committee was manned by people who gave money to themselves. And finally, we have Troy Jackson himself, who is, in my view, the poster child for what has gone wrong in this state. That's why this is such a great debate. He signed an FHA mortgage loan that allowed him to get special terms, and then saying that the house was a primary residence in Augusta, he then flipped it for a $100,000 profit and turned around and collected $160,000 from the Maine taxpayer for travel expenses. Now, it's either one way or the other. It's either your primary residence and you don't get the $160,000, or it's not your primary residence and you committed fraud. Bottom line is this: we need integrity and the American dream back in the state of Maine. We need lower taxes, lower crime, and no more of this woke nonsense in our schools. If we get that, we will be where we need to be. Take care. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I definitely want to thank the moderators also for everyone for coming here. And I want to thank Bobby for his kind words, because it makes it so much easier to actually say what I want to say here tonight. I'm a fifth-generation lawyer from Allagash, Maine. The reason why I challenged the debate is because he's doing things that I just don't believe in. And I've watched people across my county do the exact same thing. This debate was supposed to be about everything that people care about in the state. Bobby decided that he only had it on a couple issues that he wanted to talk about, and still I decided that was fine, that we would talk about these issues. First and foremost, I think what he's doing here at Lewiston is awful. I mean, I think Lewiston is a great city. If there's any issues, sure, we want to clean anything up in the state, but to degrade the city of Lewiston, for somebody that's running as governor, I think is awful. And I certainly think that what he did, first Somalian American Representative Becca Delac, is race baiting. It's the worst thing that I've ever seen done by somebody that's actually running for governor, way before Gateway ever happened. And that is something I also think. And as someone that is a French Catholic, we've seen this type of race baiting rhetoric before. People that burn crosses on lands and things like that. And that's exactly what we don't need in the next governor. Somebody that goes around making people in the state feel like they can't go home. And that's what exactly happened with Becca. trolls, people that harassed her, so much so that she had to quit the legislature because of this man, the next supposedly governor. Now, that's not rhetoric or anything. That's actually, and what did you say when she said she quit? Mission accomplished. That is what our next governor is supposed to be doing right here. So that's why I challenged him to debate. And that's what I've seen from big, powerful men in my entire life. When I was a logger in the woods, people came and told us that we had to do it this way, do it or go home. And that is not what we need. Well, we need somebody that's going to bring people together in the state and fight for everyday working class people. Not the people that Bobby's been down in D.C. Bobby says up here in Maine, he's Bobby. In D.C., he's Robert, because he's got a big firm down there that fights for the big money people. Big money people down in D.C., the people that actually want big income tax cuts all the time. And that's what Bobby's going to do here in Maine. You already heard it, 0%. Wants to cut income tax to 0. How are you going to fund law enforcement with no income tax here in Bobby? How are you going to do everything that we need to do in the state? And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is why I challenge him to debate, because we need somebody in Maine that's actually going to fight for everyday working class Mainers. And that's not Bobby. He's not even, 50 years in D.C. He says that he's going to drain the swamp. He is a swamp. That's what we don't need.
I just want to say, people are having a hard time hearing you on the screen, so they can see closer to the mic.
I didn't get an actual mic though. He does.
All right. So the first question is for Mr. Charles. It's on immigration. Do you believe immigration to Maine has been a net positive or negative to the state? Please explain. If positive, please include specific steps your administration would take to promote immigration.
So this is a great question, actually. Surprised, Andy, thank you. There are 9 ways that you can get into the state of Maine on a visa, all legal. And we have great immigrants in this state who have come in on visas. My quarrel is never with those who come in legally. My quarrel is with those who come in illegally. We have in this state 8,000 illegal aliens. And recently we had ICE in here trying to clean out the 1,400 that they know have criminal records. Bottom line is, we're in a state right now where illegal aliens are draining us of billions of dollars at the end of the day. We have the worst infrastructure in the country, which is overwhelmed right now because of these Democrat leaders. We have 7,200 kids in the state that cannot speak English. If you cannot speak English, you can't learn it. It drags down the rest. We need English as a second language. We need to pull that out and make it real. And we have law enforcement overwhelmed in this state. I was just on a ride-along in Lewiston. There are bullet holes all over everything in Lewiston. And to my colleague here, I can only tell you, I love Lewiston. I grew up very, very close to here. Sam's is shut down. Everything is shut down. Illegal aliens all over the place. We've got drug trafficking. We had 200 shootings that are recorded shootings in this state, in this city recently, and we had 1,500 overdoses. That is not success. And giving away a whole bunch of needles, that's not success either. We need to care about the kids of Lewiston and of Maine, and we need to care about them no matter what their color is or anything else. It's about the American dream. That's what we're missing in the state of Maine. When I grew up here under the influence of World War II vets, and I worked for World War II vets, everybody had a fair shot. Nobody was worried about their property taxes, their income taxes, and yes, I am going to eliminate the income tax. Nobody was worried about public safety. Nobody's worried about the school systems. I graduated from an unaccredited school, and I went off to other good places to work. Bottom line is, we've got to get back to basics. And immigrants, legal immigrants, are a big part of the future of Maine, but not illegal immigrants.
Oh, sorry. Do you believe immigration to Maine has been a net positive or negative to the state? Please explain. If positive, please include specific steps your administration will take to promote immigration.
Yeah, I believe immigration is much needed in Maine. We have a great state, but it's an older state. We need people to come to it. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but they're not going to look like me. for the most part, and having immigrants come to Maine, I think it's a good thing. I think it's actually, add a lot to our culture. We see a lot of great things. I don't want illegal immigration. Never have, never will. But having immigrants come here, set up shop, become part of our tax base, become part of our culture, it's something I've always supported, and I'll continue to support. I think, like I said, it adds a lot to this state, and it's needed. I mean, when we were when I was in the legislature, the Chamber of Commerce was always talking to us about having more people in the job market and trying to support bringing immigrants in, trying to get immigrants, with the training programs and things like that they needed. The unions have done a lot of good about bringing training programs to immigrants so that we can have, them have the skills that they need for the job markets. So I would be very supportive of bringing immigrants here to stay and actually work, become part of our culture, part of our activity.
Sure, I'm going to just hit 2 points. One is this idea that immigrants are the future of the labor market. Again, as I said, there are 9 visas. Work visas are one of them. They should come in and also come to school. So here's the bottom line. We've taken, the Democrats have taken the trades out of our schools. They have actually put us in a retrograde situation. We are ranked between number 41 and number 50 in this country for our school system. 4th graders, 75% of our 4th graders cannot read, and 74% of our 8th graders, according to NAAP, cannot do basic math. How about we also take care of our own? Those that are right now here, instead of bringing others in, why don't we get it back so that kids can actually live in this state and stay in this state? Our kids leave. That's what happened. I left, right? If you don't have jobs, you leave. And the bottom line in this state is we are chasing our kids away. The median income for those under the age of 35, monthly income is $200 below median rental. That is the death of the American dream. I want everybody to have the American dream.
Next category is ice enforcement.
I think he gets
Montessori. Did you get your 1 minute rebuttal?
You want everybody except immigrants to get American dream. You just said it. I mean, what a hypocrite. On one hand, he talks about immigrants shouldn't have it, and then on the other, he says that they're a drain on us. I mean, you can't have it both ways. I mean, that's exactly the point. He's been going around saying one thing, calling people a drain on our society, saying that they're part of the problem of crime and all this. I mean, it's just a constant racist, race-baiting thing with this guy. Immigrants are part of our society. They're part of our culture. I'm an immigrant. I don't know where Bobby came from, but we're mostly all immigrants. I'd be curious how he feels on tribal sovereignty. They are the ones that aren't immigrants here. I wonder if you support that, Bobby, because they're the ones that actually aren't the immigrants in this country. But the biggest thing about this, is that when you said about Democrats getting rid of trade schools, that is not true. I supported all kinds of bills. We put money into it, and I'll put more money into it because I believe in that 100%. And I stood there and fought for that. But you know what's back nonstop, not helped us, is Republicans have wanted income tax cuts. That's the only thing they want. That's not sponsored bills.
Sorry. We said it wrong. They're having a hard time hearing you. I apologize. I don't know if this mic can be raised or maybe taken by him. It might be better. I apologize. They put 2 minutes instead of 1 minute, so for everybody. So we will reset it, please. Can we make sure his mic's good before we go to the next question? I think we're good. All right. This is the ICE enforcement question, and it will go to Troy first. According to numerous news reports, immigrants here on student or work visas, awaiting asylum, and refugees with no criminal records have been detained and deported by immigration enforcement agents without due process. Do you believe ICE broke any laws or violated the Constitution? As the governor, what would you do to protect the civil rights of Maine residents in this environment?
Well, I certainly believe that they broke the law. I mean, they broke the 1st, the 4th, the 14th Amendment, and I believe if you shoot somebody in the face, that's breaking the law. I mean, I don't know how more you can break the law than that. The ICE broke all kinds of laws in Maine. They actually arrested a law enforcement officer in Portland and took him away. I mean, I don't know how anyone with a straight face could say that ICE broke laws in Maine. Just this week, a report came out that they were falsifying reports to the judges and were caught doing that. And then when the judges told them what to do, they wouldn't do it. So, I mean, how else can you actually say that ICE is not breaking the law when they falsify reports and then won't follow through on what the judge's orders are? That is pretty clear violation of the law. And when you won't follow the Constitution, which Bobby talked about earlier, being a military man, which I would, definitely praise him for, one of the few things, follow the Constitution, but you don't follow the first 4 to 14 points of the Constitution, I don't know how you can sit there and say that ICE is the way that they have perpetrated the laws here in Maine. I don't know how you can sit there with a straight face and say that you're following the Constitution. It's for everyone to follow it completely, not choose to do it when you think it's okay and when you don't. And that is something I feel very strongly about. I put on a plan about what I would do as governor. I would arrest officers that violate the Constitution, go after people that are black and brown, and make examples of people that aren't following the law. We have law enforcement in this state that are doing a great job. I would not let ICE come in here and overrule them, run roughshod over them, go rogue. I would let our law enforcement do their job. And if ICE is actually coming here to arrest illegal immigrants and people that broke the law, there's a right way to do that, and I would let them do it, but not the way they're doing it right now. No, I'm good. I support ICE fully and unequivocally because they have operated under the Constitution. And let me tell you what that really means. The Fourth Amendment makes 2 commands. The command of probable cause and not allowing unreasonable search and seizure. Every single detainer that ICE did in this state, every single one, was based on data that came out of the 2 databases, NCIC and USCIS. And what did they do? They came in and got people very specifically who either had a deportation order on them already, had committed a crime in the country that they came from, committed a crime here, overstayed their visa, were deported and came back, or were a threat to their community. That is, they get 2 years. I understand all the objection from the field, but I'm going to tell you right now, that's the fact. And they get constitutional law training. I'm going to tell you again, I appreciate this side making lots of noise. At the end of the day, ICE and law enforcement in this state should be working together. They should not be separated, as the Democrats have. There should be joint interagency task forces that specifically allow Mainers to be safe. I fully support any law-abiding citizen in this state, no matter what their background is, and I am fully against anybody in this state who violates the law or steals money from the taxpayers. At the end of the day, we have to stand our ground, and our ground means this state has to protect itself. We have had, there were 750, I don't even want to get into it all, but the bottom line is there are a lot of illegal aliens here who are tied up with major drug trafficking groups and human trafficking groups. If you want to know it later, I'll do interviews later on it. They are significant in this state. If we cannot get after them, every single one of them, the Chinese grow houses that have illegal aliens from China, the Trinitarians from the Dominican Republic drug trafficking, the Sinaloa cartel, they're all here. If we do not get them, they, at the end of the day, are going to be predatory, and we're not going to let that happen. Illegal drug traffickers and those that ICE is going after need to be detained.
Remind the audience that we said this is going to be civil. We're here to hear the candidates, and we know these are passionate topics, but we ask you to refrain and allow them to give their answers. Jory, you have 1 minute to give up.
Well, again, Ricky Bobby's not, he can't have his own truths. I mean, the report in the Bangor Daily was that directors from Homeland Security were falsifying reports to the judges. I mean, that was clear as mud. And it was clear as day. And that is the real truth of the matter. And that is just the fact of the matter. And you know, they caught people here in Maine that did nothing wrong. This whole idea that they were on some list or whatever is not true. They were targeted in schools. They were targeted in places where you know, black and brown people were going to pick up their kids. And that is not law enforcement. That is just Gestapo going around, and his daddy Trump wants that. That's what it was. This is pettiness because of what Janet said to him at a thing down in D.C. That they didn't go after any big states or a whole bunch of illegal immigration is. And that is not what we need here in Maine. We don't need people coming in, you know, running around shot over our state and making it.
Sure. So let me say 15, let's get to the real facts. 15 individuals that we know publicly were detained that did not have criminal records. They were presumably asylees. You do have to keep the confidence of an asylee if you're law enforcement. They each got habeas hearings in front of a federal judge, and they also got bond hearings. So at the end of the day, due process was served. And if they were detained and then released, that's called due process. Second point, you know, Troy goes into great depth about saying that he's against illegal aliens, which of course his entire track record says the opposite. But I want to point out, for example, LD 1128. That's where he pushed forward the idea of illegal aliens getting driver's licenses. Now, there was a whole bunch of other legislation he did on the same kind of topic, an absolute fact. But I also want to end with one last point with my 12 seconds, racism. Racism, as an attack on a false claim of racism, is literally the last refuge of a corrupt politician. And for the media here, it is also the last refuge of a piece of media, like the Portland Press Herald, that is trying to cover for that corrupt politician.
Okay, this is my next question. It's also on ICE enforcement. I think we know the answer to that. Do you agree with the Trump administration's handling of the ICE deportations, and what would you do differently?
So I'm going to be, everything I tell you is the God's honest truth. If you wake me up in the middle of the night, it'll be the same thing. I believe that what ICE did was completely constitutional. However, I will tell you that, and I fully support what President Trump did in trying to stabilize the various cities in the United States, and particularly in Minneapolis, and particularly also here. I do believe we have to support rule of law every hour of the day, every day of the week. However, if I were doing it, I think I would not have used the masks. The masks are used, and the reason they're used is because people get doxxed. These agents, and you know, I'm hearing these smarts from this side. Let me give you a data point. Last year, there were 79,000 assaults on law enforcement officers, and there were 73 killed in ambushes. That is because of the kind of activism that gets pushed, and it was pushed in Minneapolis in order to put everyday people in harm's way. My attitude is, and my belief is, that ICE should be fully supported, but let's go a step further. We should have full cooperation between local law enforcement and state law enforcement with federal law enforcement, which has been blocked by the Democrats in this state with the sanctuary law. That is literally giving sanctuary to criminals and preventing everyday people from being protected by joint interagency task forces. That is the way the rest of the country operates. We have joint operations in which people cooperate in order to keep the citizenry safe. To do the opposite makes no sense whatsoever. And of course, at the end of the day, what it's going to mean is that we're going to have more crimes in this state. We're going to have things we could have addressed that because of all the activism, we don't get to address. I personally think a lot of the folks on the activist side want to see some kind of an incident here. I'm going to tell you right now, the reason we have security here tonight, which incidentally Troy wouldn't bother to pay for, but I did pay for, is because people outside this room could be literally put in a position of trying to be at each other's throats. I am not going to have that in the state of Maine. I fully believe that every minority community in this state is entitled to every constitutional protection.
Jackson, your 1 minute rebuttal. You need to hear the question again? Those 2 minutes.
Honestly, I just can't go over what a hypocrite you are. You want everyone to have protection, and then what you did to Decca, I mean, she has all kinds of people calling her out with hateful stuff. I mean, and that was you, bud. I mean, and how do you want everyone to have protection? Yeah, I didn't pay for the law enforcement because I'm not scared to walk down the street here in Oak City. I'm not scared to walk anywhere in Maine. You've seen it be the coward that came back to Maine that's not afraid to walk down the streets here. But I'm not. I mean, I don't know what your problem is, but I've been here in Maine all my life, and I'm not afraid to walk around here. But again, I've never seen anyone like this. It says that he's for all these people and all that, but you got to pay for law enforcement. There's nobody out here. There's no boogeyman outside here, Bob. You know, and there's not going to be a pile of people outside this door after. If there is, it's going to be your hateful rhetoric that's actually going to drive them here.
Troy is living down to all the expectations I had for him. This is literally just a ditto. Yeah, this is a mudsling. The bottom line is Decca DeLocke. Let's get down to rock facts. These are the bedrock facts. Decca DeLocke, when she was serving in the legislature, was also number 2 in Gateway Services, which got millions of dollars from the legislature. That's called a conflict of interest. And you seem to have problems with conflicts of interest. You don't seem to quite grasp the concept. At the end of the day, we in this state deserve high integrity leadership. The reason for security is to protect the people of this city. And I will tell you right now, I was yesterday in a number of places in this city filled with bullet holes, okay? Those places are places that everyday citizens don't walk anymore. When I was a kid, I was in this city. I was here often. I would go to Sam's, I would go to a bunch of places. It is not the same city. And at the end of the day, the reason, and I'm going to go to the heart of it, the reason is drug trafficking. This and illegal aliens. Drug trafficking in this state has ripped this state apart, and we've got to put it back together.
I mean, you're going on about all this high integrity and all that. The Maine Ethics Commission ruled twice unanimously, Republicans and Democrats, that I did nothing wrong. But in your case, buddy boy, there's an Inspector General report for you that showed that you had all kinds of problems when you were on the INL. You had all kinds of problems that the narcotics and the law enforcement said that you were structurally dysfunctional, that you had all kinds of reports of running that department. They actually had to take it away from you. So don't tell me about how you can run the state government. You couldn't even run the INL when you were there. So there you go about getting down the brass tax playground. Media, the report's right there if you want to see it.
We're going to change categories now to affordability, and this first question will go to Troy. Voters have consistently said in polls that affordability is their top concern, including the cost of housing, childcare, education, utilities, and groceries, etc. What would you do to lower costs for many residents?
Sure, that's the first one. There's a lot of things. First and foremost, under the Page administration, two major tax cuts went to the top people in the state. I did us a fair tax system so that people in the state would actually get money in their pockets. I would make sure that we have a property tax reform in the state. There's been a lot of opportunity over the last 20 years, and it's always failed. And we make sure that we get a fair tax system so that property taxes in the state would actually be, for Maine residents, be lower. We need prescription drug coverage. That's something that, Bobby was here once a time, and Janet. Look, everyone knows in the state, I mean, the Republicans in the legislature knows, me and Janet don't get along. I'm not supporting her. I passed 5 prescription drug bills that she vetoed. We can do prescription drug coverage in this state and actually lower the cost of health care. That's half of our health care costs, and we'll do that when I'm governor. There's a lot of things that we can do to lower the cost of groceries, property taxes, nursing homes, another thing that I fought with her tooth and nail about, child care. There's so many things that we can do if we get rid of the status quo. The people, the big lobby, the people that are all the time holding us back in this state, the people that Bobby lobbies for in D.C., the big money people, that's who he lobbies for. But we gotta get the people like that out of Augusta and actually have working class people in the driver's seat for a change, and I'll put them there. Janet, Paul Page, all those people stopped us, over 100 bills that they vetoed mine. We'll get those things passed and I'm done.
I find it the height of both irony and hypocrisy that a guy that spent 22 years in Augusta says that we need to clean up Augusta. I mean, come on, if you know what happens on the daily let people come and testify in front of them. They break their own rules. I mean, the Irish mayor doesn't know this. This is run like a tyrannical thing. They control vote takers, the governor, the constitutional officers, the cabinet members, and the Supreme Court. They pay no attention to the other half of the state. So that's number one. Number two, INL, International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. Whatever that report is, I'll be interested to see it. I'll tell you why. Because I was brought in by Colin Powell and by the president to clean up that place. And you know what I did? I did that. I trained, at the same time I cut bureaucrats and cut the budget, I trained the Iraqi police. I set it up and trained it while Dave Petraeus trained the army. I trained the Iraqi police and the Afghan police. I helped bring down the Cali cartel. And let's talk efficiency for a moment. I inherited a air wing that was 62%, the largest air wing outside of the Pentagon, armed air wing. I inherited an air wing that was 62% efficient. That is essentially 6 planes up and 2 down. I gave it an end game of 87% efficiency, so that it ended up being 9 up and 1 down. I saved the taxpayers' money, I cut bureaucrats, I delivered on results, and that is what I am going to do in the state of Maine. And I'll just end with this. There's so much coming out of this that I can't even respond to it all. But in terms of cutting costs in the state of Maine, I'm going to eliminate the income tax. It'll take 4 years. We're going to get rid of it. They've jumped the budget from $6.1 billion to $14 as were submitted this year. Yeah, she's your buddy. And yeah, down to nothing. I'm going to roll back all the mandates, the hundreds that generate the high property taxes, and I'm going to reduce regulations on businesses and towns so that we can all have a wonderful living again.
So that's the Inspector General report. That's not my report. That's the federal government, and that's Bobby's turn. Morale low, structurally dysfunctional. Blew the budget up from $115 million to $2.2. Bobby, Robert Childs, Ricky Bobby, that's your boy right there. So, and as far as what I did, look, I am the Senate President. I was 10 years in the legislature when the Republicans had control. 8 years when Paul Page. You want to talk about being able to do things? You can't do anything in mixed government. Yes, I was Senate President. Again, Janet vetoed 40 of my bills. We don't work together well. I can't help it if we can't change things. What I'm saying is, I'm running for governor so I can get things done because I couldn't with her.
We have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, so I will tell you, the record is clear, and the mud is everywhere. It wasn't a $100 million budget. It was a $2.1 billion budget, and I managed it so well that at the end of the day, Colin Powell and the president were glad for what we achieved, and we achieved it in a faster period of time than anybody would ever managed it before. So you got to just go do your fact check. Yes! There you go. The other thing I want to do is remind you who we are really talking about here in Troy. This is a guy who, and I'll just pick out a couple of bills. LD 1675. We got a big drug trafficking problem in this state. That bill, he made it, he wanted to get rid of, and did get rid of, I think, the penalties, the mandatory minimum sentences for 1,000 fatal doses of fentanyl. Now, why in your God's name would you ever do that in the state of Maine? Then he had another bill, and I'm trying to remember the number on it. I think it was 210. That was a bill. Okay, he gave himself a lot of pay raises. LD 210.
Okay, my next
LD 1328.
As governor, what will you do to address the addiction epidemic in Maine? Is there a role for faith-based treatment programs in your administration or any other kinds of forms?
Is that for me?
Yes.
So this is a very important question. And at the end of the day, we can have our jousting, but if we're going to solve those problems that I described at the beginning of this process, what we have to do is several very important things. We have to address the incoming fentanyl, meth, crack cocaine, and kilo loads, the highest purity heroin ever, and fentanyl, carfentanil. We have to address these drugs directly. One way to do that is to work with the Trump administration, which this administration hasn't, in order to get every county identified as a high-intensity drug trafficking area. That allows millions of dollars to come into this state, and we open the door again, get rid of this sanctuary law. We open the door to a surge in DEA, ICE, and cooperation with our state and federal law enforcement. I would also boost the authorities of state and local law enforcement because they've been stripped down. I would also put us in a position where state law enforcement has recruiting and retention that are at a high level. And whatever that takes, I would increase the number of investigators, the number of troopers. I would put us out there in a position where we can deter, because everything in life really boils down to appeasement or deterrence when it comes to crime. The other thing I would do is I would go to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration. It's called SAMHSA. I've worked with all these groups, and I would bring in millions of dollars to do real drug treatment in this state, together with the law enforcement and with drug prevention, putting drug prevention back in our schools. In terms of faith-based prevention and treatment, absolutely. They are incredibly powerful. They work. They work just as well as anything you call evidence-based. In fact, they are in their own way evidence-based because they get great outcomes. I would stop this 3.7 million needle giveaway and 240,000 Narcan units in our schools. And one of the reasons I'm going to do that, one of the reasons I'm doing that is because we have 30,000 people addicted in this state. 10% of those over the age of 12 are addicted in this state. We need to turn that around. We have only 315 treatment beds in a state of 1.4 million people. That is a dereliction of duty. That is a completely reckless way to manage the drug problem.
As governor, what will you do to address the addiction epidemic in Maine? Is there a role for faith-based treatment programs or any other forms of drug treatment programs? Mike.
So, I mean, as far as faith-based, I mean, whatever works, I'm fine with. I mean, if that's what makes people get off of any type of drugs, opioids, or anything, then I'm fine with that. I would support it. Actually, I think one of the times that myself and Governor Page got a chance to sit down and talk about this, I think that was one of the programs that he supported, which I was happy to agree with. I mean, it was challenging though, because his argument was that a whole generation of people would have to die off before we could get over this. And I thought that was, well, I guess wrong, for lack of a better word, because obviously if you're people in that generation, that's a hard sell. Somebody you care about. But when I think about this a lot, and why I'm so focused on pushing back against Big Pharma, because that's a big part of what is happening here. Big Pharma dropped this plague on us, the opioid crisis, knowing how addictive this was. And in a state like Maine, where people in the log industry, people in the fishing, farming, any industry that depends on people getting up early, having to work all week, construction industry, not missing a day, having to be there. A lot of people, when their bodies broke down, showed up and said, "Doc, I need something." And they knew what it was going to do. And I feel strongly that Big Pharma has to pay for what they've done to our people. And we need more treatment, and they need to pay for it. And I'm going to make them pay for it. So anything at all that helps people, we're going to do, and we're going to do a lot more of it because we need it.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to basics. A governor has to be able to get along with the administration in Washington. And at the end of the day, this is not going to be solved with more opiate lawsuits. Those have maxed themselves out. And I'm not even sure how that money was used up here because you're not seeing any indication of it. We have to support law enforcement. We have to support treatment programs that work. And we have to work with the federal government. The federal government they're doing the exact opposite. I mean, this lieutenant governor, together with his governor, at the end of the day, has really ruined the relationship between Maine and the federal government. We have to rebuild that because there's so much of our state that is dependent upon working with the Trump administration. So you might not like him, but at the end of the day, he's doing great stuff, and we are going to have to be able to work closely with the federal government. And that is the way we get ourselves back on track. Big Pharma, you've done a lot of giving to Big Pharma yourself, but we won't get into that.
I'm pretty sure the Big Pharma is not wanting me to win this race. I'm pretty sure you probably lobbied for me, you see. And I don't know, I mean, if I'm governor, don't worry, I'll work with Trump on anything that's good for me. I wasn't lieutenant governor when Trump was, and I actually turned out when Trump won this election. So don't worry about that. I'll work with anyone. Case in point, Paul Page, who said some of the nastiest things that was ever said about anyone, I worked with him just fine afterwards because I don't care what people say about me. I don't care what you say about me. I know exactly who I am. I know what I'm fighting for. You do not bother me a bit, Bobby. Your AI shit that you put on, I don't care because you're a little man. And I don't care. I'm going to do what I need to do to make this thing better for the people I care about. The people like you, you've been doing that to people like me your whole life. So it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to fight for whoever I need to, whatever I need to.
A question under addiction and crime. It goes to Troy first, so 2 minutes to respond. What should be done to address the crime of child abuse in this state? How do you balance protecting children's safety with parental rights?
Well, I mean, as far as child abuse, I mean, you know, it's harder to, I mean, the sentence is possible. I mean, I just don't have any room for that at all. Children are very, very important and need to be protected. And, you know, this whole thing that we've had in Maine, I mean, I think the HHS needs to be totally flipped upside down and shook up. And we have tried. You know, Senator Diamond, God rest him, you know, we've tried to create a new department. That's going to be filled multiple times. It'll be one of the first things that I'll do is to create a whole, I mean, the whole department. I'll have it completely turned upside down because there's a whole bunch of things that don't work in there. I mean, that division for sure. Child care, I mean, I still get calls all the time about people that aren't getting paid for daycares or things like that. But, you know, I mean, people that abuse children, like Daddy Trump, need to be fined and thrown in jail and you know, thrown the key away because there's just no room for it.
I want to make 3 points in these 2 minutes. The first is, it's all very funny to throw out insults and names and kind of adolescent. That's not the way you govern a state. A governor needs to know the details. He needs to know the facts. He needs to know the laws. He needs to know how to work within the laws. A governor has to be able to have command in order to figure these problems out. The second thing I'm going to say is that this is really the height of hypocrisy. Not just this answer, but every answer. This is a guy who's been 22 years in Augusta. He's had plenty of time to save those kids, the 150 that died in foster care. He's had plenty of time to remake, because they have a majority, remake all of DHHS. He hasn't done anything to help parents. At the end of the day, point number 3, the way that you help kids in this state is to prioritize kids in this state. And what does that mean? It means you go in and you take all of the ideology out of DHHS, you get all of the inspectors that are not doing their jobs, and you replace them with people who will do their jobs. You bring the parents in, you have a parent board that advises, you bring in people who are actually dedicated to saving the lives of these kids. You also prioritize them in the schools, which we are not doing. We're turning out kids that have no prosperous future. I can turn that around. I will turn that around. we get the woke out of the schools. That's another way that you help kids. You help the child cares that actually, if they're announcing or if they're reporting that there's abuse, you go after that abuse. I mean, I was an investigator for 5 years. This is what you do. You follow the evidence. And the evidence in this state is that DHHS and this Democrat majority have betrayed the state of Maine. These kids are dying on a regular basis. That's before we even talk about the drug issue. Okay? When you have 10% of this state over the age of 12 addicted, they are not doing anything to help these kids. So my priority in the state, if you really boil it down, the cutting of taxes, the saving of the schools, the getting rid of the drugs, it really all boils down to helping kids have a prosperous future.
There's a hypocrite again. I'm pretty sure he started this off, started off with insults, and now he's using me with insulting. But anyways, once again, clearly doesn't understand the legislative process. We can propose all kinds of bills, we can pass the bills, but if the governor vetoes them, that's the end of the line on it. So you might try to figure out how the process works before you run for governor. That's why I'm running for governor, so that we can get shit done. And that's what I'm going to do when I'm there. We've done all the bills, but you can't change the administration when you're a legislator. I've tried all kinds of times. I've tried with LePage. I've tried with Mills. That's why I'm not running again. Because you can't do it in the legislature. You have to do it as the governor.
The Democrats have controlled this state for 30 of the last 32 years. You had plenty of time to fix DHS. These kids that all died on your watch, whether it's the drug issue, the foster care issue, the child care issue, they're all on your watch and they're all on you. Okay? All of these data points, and there were no insults early on. I use data points. The data says that what you're doing is failing in the state of Maine. So, at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, this guy walks the walk in the sense that he says, hey, I'm for the little guy, I'm for the little guy. But he's not. He's not. It's all talk. At the end of the day, this is a guy that hangs out with the big union bosses. He's not rank and file anymore. He's not rank and file anymore. And yeah, I'm sorry, Andy, and the rest of you gangs. Okay? Rank and file is the people, to borrow from Jimmy Stewart, that do most of the living and dying in this state. And that is not the folks that flip houses for $100,000 and pull $160,000 out of the taxpayer's back pocket. That is hypocrisy.
Okay, we got your favorite topic, corruption. Accusations of fraud regarding Minnesota and Maine are in the news. Do you believe these concerns are credible? Please explain.
And who is that to?
I think that's to you, folks.
Okay. They're absolutely credible. I mean, we have, and I want, as governor, to start bringing impaling grand juries, bringing indictments, having the indictments followed by prosecution, by conviction, and by sentencing. Minnesota had 92 indictments, and I think they've had some number of that convicted already. That is the largest welfare scam in the history of the country. And the model is exactly the same model that they're using here in the state of Maine. I want to make it crystal clear, very clear. I do not blame the average Somali, the average recipient in an NGO of this money. Those are all the past receivers in the end zone. I blame the quarterback who's throwing all that Democrat money, that false, fraudulent money at all of these folks. And it's a self-making ice cream cone. What they do is they give lots of money for absolute no performance in order to get the money back into their campaigns and in order to win these elections. Let's be straight about this. That is what corruption looks like. This is the poster child for corruption right here. We cannot have this any longer in the state of Maine. We have got to get back to basics. High integrity leaders, people who will support the kids of the state, people who will demand that they get outcomes, not just words, people who don't just throw mud and try to sully up the water. No, people who actually deliver outcomes. I will cut taxes in this state, property taxes and income taxes. I will get the drug traffickers out of this state within 24 months. I will bring good addiction services into this state. And I will put our schools back on track and get rid of the fraud that is, if you read the newspapers, if you read the ones that report and get the FOIA requests, we're looking at roughly $500 million in fraud in this state. It is absolutely intolerable. That money is all coming out of that working class that you supposedly represent. I can barely pay my bills, Jordan. I am the working class.
Yeah, that's what it says on your website, DC, Robert Child, working class.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the DC lobby. So, I don't know how he's gonna cut income tax to zero, and he's gonna cut property taxes. Last time that anyone cut the income tax in here in Maine, was Paul Page cut the income tax from 8.5 to 7.115. And that was the biggest income tax cut in the history of the state of Maine. People crowed about it on the Republican side, said it was the greatest thing ever. And what did it do? It blew our property taxes through the roof because the money came from revenue share. I've actually supported increasing revenue sharing to get more money out to property taxpayers. Just 1.25% in income tax cut blew our property tax up, and now Bob Charles wants to do zero income tax. What's that going to do for law enforcement? What's that going to do for fire and rescue? What's that going to do for ambulance? What's that going to do for your property taxes across Maine? It's going to mean that they're going to go even further through the roof. That's not going to help everyday working class people. It's going to kill them. And that is what you're looking at, because what's he want to do? He wants to put money in the pockets of the wealthiest people in the state. And that is what the income tax cut's going to do. It's always done that, it always will. And Bobby going on about my problems or whatever, it's all coming from the main liar over there that has once again been not reporting accurately.
Yes, we do.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do.
Main ethics, 5-0. 5-0.
Shame
Twice.
Shame
Twice.
Shame on you.
No. You report that.
Shame on you.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Call me out. That's the
That is what the actual report is. So whenever you say anything about that, make sure that you go and look at the main efforts report. Republicans and Democrats.
So damn excited. I'm just excited as hell. First of all, my hat tipped to the Maine Wire. They're the only ones who do the FOIA requests. They're the only ones that do real reporting. They did not get paid, like the Mills folks paid some of the other papers in this state. How many $1 million to get people reporting? The Soros papers in this state do not report truth. Period. Okay? And I'm just going to say, I'll leave it with that. Let's go to the 2 points that matter most. Let's walk through how taxes work. Okay? We in the city had a 6.1, apparently Troy really doesn't get it, $6.1 billion budget under LePage. They just finished an $11.7 billion budget. From 1820 until the beginning of Mills, it took that long to get to $6 billion. It took just 7 years to jump it almost twice again. Who does that money come out of the back pockets of? The average person will get back. When I cut income taxes, average person will get back $5,000. It's their money. It's not giving them money that the government had. It's their money.
So just to riff off of that, Leonard Leo funded, Bobby's Aaron. That's why you love him. And as far as the budget went up with Republican support, 2/3 vote Republican support, and the reason why it had to go up so drastically the first time is because it was started so long with LePage. We did need things. I mean, revenue sharing, we had to put that in there. Education funding, we had to put that in there. Those are things that voters required us to do, and that's why the budget went up. There's other things, obviously, that we obviously did, but I mean, people in the state deserve better highways, better things like that. Those are all things that are in the budget that obviously increasing. Over time, budgets do go up, but the only time that it did go up was under Democrat control in the 126th legislature. So don't tell me about how budgets go up just under Democrats. They go up under Republicans too. We did under LePage.
Last question. for the evening before the closing statements, and again, Troy, you'll go first. In regard to the topics covered tonight, immigration, ICE enforcement, crime, addiction, corruption, and affordability, are there any issues where you would differ from the general stance of your party?
Your party?
Your party, yes.
I think I differ from my party on most of them. I mean, that's exactly the point, why I'm running. I mean, I was the first one that came out and called out the issues on ICE. I put out a plan how I didn't think it was right what they were doing. I said that I would arrest officers on affordability. I've been going around the state from day one talking, I mean, it's part of the reason I ran for legislature to begin with. I've been talking about health insurance, child care, prescription drugs, nursing homes. I mean, my God, we've lost 40% of our nursing homes in the state, and you know, Republicans and Democrats have been fighting for that in the legislature. In the argument with the current governor has been, they're making all kinds of money. I'm like, well, Jesus, they're closing, excuse me, they're closing. How can we be making all kinds of money? We need to have quality, affordable nursing home care for elderly people. We need to have quality, affordable health care for children. I mean, this is something that's a priority, and I believe property tax reform and housing are things that, you know, are a really big deal for me. You know, I'm not sure about the law enforcement, but, you know, I keep saying this. People probably over here might not agree. I don't really care once again. But I am not from the right or the left. I'm from the bottom. And that is what I'm fighting for, is the people that don't have a voice in state government. I'm not for the high-priced lobbyists. I never have been. I don't care about them. I've always gone in there fighting for everyday people, loggers in Northern Maine, people out on the coast that are fighting, you know, longshoremen. Those are the people I care about, and I've always fought for. And they'll be the ones that I'll fight for whenever I'm in the Blaine House. They'll be the ones that will be coming in my office, not people that have seven-figure salaries.
So I'm going to take these things in order. First, you know, lots of bragging about the budget. There were no budget cuts under the Democrats, and they talk about measuring their success by dollars, pushing more dollars, twice the amount of money they have pushed into schools. And we have the worst results in 30 years. Why? Because they pushed indoctrination with those dollars. They didn't push outcomes with those dollars. They pushed more money into every program, but the outcomes are all turning into the bottom. Why? Because you don't measure by inputs. You measure by outcomes. That's how you get to efficiency. Whether you call it a dose or you call it just good management, that's how you get to efficiency. Do I agree with my party on the four topics, ICE, immigrants, drugs, and affordability? Actually, I do. Because at the end of the day, my party wants ICE and DEA to cooperate with a better funded, better authorized state police and to re-up the funding, not cut the funding, for local police so that you get joint interagency task forces, so that if you end up with a local police force or a state police force that needs backup from the feds, they get it. If the feds, since I was an intelligence officer, the bottom line is all information comes from the bottom up. You end up creating cooperation at the top that is more efficient. That's ICE. On immigration, I totally do not agree with the sanctuary state idea. It is giving sanctuary to criminals at the expense of everyday citizens. You're from the bottom, you say. Well, you know, for a guy from the bottom, you're sure a lot more wealthy than I am. And at the end of the day, well, there's a fact, okay? At the end of the day, when you take the illegal immigrants and you put them in this state, and my party is pretty clear about this, you actually bring down all kinds of other variables. Last two things, drugs. Yeah, I do agree we need to get after the drug enforcement piece robustly and the drug addiction piece and affordability, cut the taxes, give people back their money, give them back their state.
Steer the questions in any direction they wish. When Andy and I put this question together, knowing that whoever is going to be governor is going to have to win the independent vote, we hope for the opportunity where we actually do specifically differ with your general stance on the party. Again, You both have 1 minute to rebuttal, and then we will move to the closing statements. Closing statements, 1 minute.
I mean, look, I just think that, Bobby's wrong on that, once again, I kind of lost my train of thought. Yeah, anyway.
Would you like me to repeat that? Sure. No. Again, the original question was, are there any of these areas where you specifically would not be in line with your part? And again, you guys can answer the question you want, but again, because we know that in Maine, you have one for independent voters, it's an opportunity, if there is any area where you do not stand in line necessarily with the general stance of your part on these issues.
Yeah. Well, like that, once again, I mean, it's just, something that I feel very strongly about. Again, I am, from the bottom, I'm not a rich person. You know, I just got a new 2016 van. And the other one had 342,000 on it. I'm more than happy to compare, my tax, forms with Bobby. You know, whatever.
You don't know what you're asking for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know you're the guy that carries around an axe, but I'm actually the lawyer.
Okay, let's not, that's correct.
Actually, Bobby, you should come out, the axe, my father-in-law has 300 chainsaws, and we know how to run chainsaws.
I've been with the Allagash before now, and I know you had a little dicey issue out there with the Allagash. So.
Guys, let's keep it on line.
Hey, we'll vote for what I want to vote. All right, go ahead. But in the end, it is what it is, and we'll not worry about who's from the bottom, who's from the top. But I'm very comfortable running to where I am, and anyways, it's yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something unusual here. Troy and I don't really know each other. I think this is the first night ever. But we're all Mainers, okay, at the end of the day. And I've spent a lot of time in the northern part of the state. You spent a lot of time in the southern part of the state, a lot of time in Augusta. My guess is we could probably agree on some things if we sat down and tried to do it, and that is what a governor needs to do. I will tell you, in terms of differing with my own party, the bottom line is, I am not going to pivot in a general election. And people say, Bobby, on my own side, they say, Bobby, how can you do that? And I say, because the issues are the same. People are overtaxed. Their property taxes are out of control. Their income taxes, and they just raised sales taxes again, are out of control. Democrats and independents, I even had some old friends of Zephyr call me and said, you know what, you're right, Bobby, okay? Number two, I'm going to look at the schools, and I'm going to try to get outcomes that help Democrats, Republicans, independents. I don't care. At that age, it doesn't matter. All I want is these kids to succeed, okay? And number three, the drug trafficking. It's hurting everybody. People can't walk their dogs. I'm going to fix it and work with the Democrats.
Closing statements now? 2 minutes. Closing statement.
Thanks. Well, thanks, everyone. I appreciate people coming out here tonight. I know this is kind of erratic and hectic and all over the place, and probably not what gubernatorial candidates probably should do. But the point of the matter is that it's like I started out with. I don't really think what Bobby is doing is good for the state. I just don't. I've seen that a lot in my life, and when we didn't have black and brown people in the state, there were people that were going after French Canadians, and there's a whole history of that too. And we've watched this before, and it wasn't good. It really wasn't good. We had a state that was really in peril. And that's why I wanted this to happen, because I don't think Maine should be like this. I love the state. I really do. People can say what they want about me. I do not care. I know who I am. I know who I'm fighting for. And I've always known that. And I'm going to continue to do that regardless if I win this race or not. Because we do have a great state. Yes, we have problems. Every state in this nation has problems. Maine is no different. And we do have new problems that I didn't know about whenever I was a kid. There's no doubt about it. But we can overcome these problems. We can't remember we're divided like I think a lot of you are doing right now. There's just no way. We have to come together. We have to, be better than this. And we have to stand together, and I think we can make Maine a much better state. We can become economically better. We can do things for our young people. We can have better health care. I mean, we just can do a lot more together than we can divided like this. And we've seen this play out before, and it didn't work. And I don't want to go after that, regardless of that. So thank you for tonight.
I will come back to basics. All those data points I gave you early tonight, they are all owned by the Democrat Party. They have had years and years to fix them, and they have not fixed them. Your taxes have gone up, the budget's gone up, we have excessive spending on wind and on solar, we have law enforcement communities that are cut to the bone, we have drug traffickers everywhere, we have addiction everywhere, we have our schools failing, and we have fraud in the state. That is all owned by this group of people. Now, instead of doing what I was going to do, which was to summarize tonight, I think I'm going to tell you, instead of just sweeps over me, I'm going to tell you a story about what I really believe. 3 or 4 months ago, I was driving through Lewiston. I do spend a lot of time here, and I do like the city. I was driving through Lewiston, and I found 4 kids, teenagers, who were Somali, sitting together, and I decided to pull over and talk to them. And I said to them, would you give a stranger a little bit of time? And they said yes. They looked like pretty put-together kids, which I thought was wonderful. And I sat down and I said to them, what do you want to do with your life? And they had dreams. They had things they wanted to do with their life. One wanted to be a lawyer. I said, you want to work for a governor? Keep it in mind. You want to be a governor? One wanted to be a lawyer. One wanted to be a real estate broker. One wanted to run their own company. I can't remember the 4th one. And I said, now what about your peer group? What about all the other folks in the school, etc.? They said, no, 60 or 80% of them are not on our wavelength. And they told me about the drive-by shootings, many of which do not get reported. They told me about the drug addiction everywhere. They did not like the world they were living in, okay? And so, at the end of the day, I asked them, how is it that you have figured it out? How come you figured it out and the others can't? And you know what they told me? They said to a one, it's our parents. They believed in the American dream, so their kids believe in the American dream. I want every Maine child, no matter what their background, to believe in the American dream, and I will work day and night to make it real for them.
You need to talk to your friend. Right. Who are these friends? Not American.